Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Football, episode number 12. And it's a big day, honestly. We're absolutely thrilled. After yesterday, it's going to be a short one compared to the usual, because we're between uh, some games. I'm just going to say some games because, when you face Man City, Chelsea, and Liverpool in consecutive games, let's just call them some games, probably in the 70s those were the big games. When we were going toe to toe, but with them week in and week out. But we went toe to toe, so it looks like Leeds are gonna live to see another day. After all, I could have. I could have already heard, Leeds are falling apart again, but looks like it's not there yet, in the end, especially after what happened yesterday before the game. And I'm going to probably touch on that later on because I'm going to be respectful. So I was really annoyed by what happened yesterday before the game, honestly, especially regarding the security of Farke job. You can talk about that during the week, but 2-3 hours before the game, honestly, before a big game, not so sure, honestly. That was a good reflection for the team, for Farke before a big game when they were already under pressure. That pressure turned into siege mentality, and we saw that yesterday. But enough talk for me. Lucky, my friend, how are you? I want to first and foremost, we're gonna talk. I know, because I know who we are. We're gonna talk about the tactics, but first and foremost, that's why we fell in love with football. Emotions, your emotions after yesterday. You needed that. I needed that. We all needed that.
Yeah, I'd literally just got back from work as well, which was stressful and shouty. So I got back from work, got in, literally got some food, and then kickoff was there. And I needed it. I did. I think we all did. But after the back of a stressful day, I needed that, and it was, Leeds they have a habit of ruining days. Yesterday they made it. It was so good. It was so good to watch it with my girlfriend as well. One thing that is really funny, and I'm going to call her out. So we were watching it, and Tanaka, he had 2 shots before, which were terrible. And I'm not joking, by the way. As he hit that strike that went in, my girlfriend was saying, this guy needs shooting practice. The second she said that, I swear, but when Bogle had the ball, she said it then. He passed it. It went in. We just looked and screamed at each other. It was so funny. But
I got told off too, man. I got told off too, because I celebrated too much after Tanaka's goal because I went, not yet, because in Italian we say, say like this, because we say like that. So I got told off because it was like 10 p.m. here in Italy, because you know that we are 1 hour ahead of you. So I live in a condominium, of course, and there's other people in this building, so it wasn't very good for me to shout that louder, but go on.
It's the same, to be fair. Living in an apartment, so there might have been people in the group chat complaining, but I don't care. It don't bother me. But it's the way it is, mate. Watching football, deal with it. But just a great feeling after that. Going into it as well, I felt, even though I'm not playing, I felt motivated. Yeah, I felt serious because of what happened. With his job being on the line, and I felt really motivated for these guys to do something. I really thought, we've said a lot about the players this season, but I think we've been quite consistent in the fact that we like these players because they feel like players that, even if they don't have the cutting edge in terms of technical talent in the final third or, that kind of thing, they have heart, all of them. They always have. They've shown that this season. They battle, not perfect, the humans. There's times where they don't battle enough. There's times where they lose battles. But I think when it came down to it yesterday, every one of them players was completely 100% playing for that manager, as well as the rivalry as well. And I think it came on a good time for us. Don't forget, Chelsea were really good against Liverpool with 10 men. Chelsea had against Liverpool the other day. That's the same team with a few changes, but look at the talent they've got. I mean, wow. This is where Leeds United, what we are right now as a club, we can't rely on individuals every week to win us games. I saw a lot of what they did. Centre-backs had it a lot. And Gary Neville said it right on comms. You say no one comes to watch centre-backs pass to each other. And it's true.
Yep, Sam, probably.
Yeah. but no one pays money to watch centre backs, right? He's saying get it to the
Yeah,
best players and let them drive with it, surely. And you saw in the second half they did start to do that with the wide players, Neto and on the other side as well. They got in a little bit when we tired, but we don't have that reliance on individuals, which I think is a good thing for us as a team. I think we need every player to play extremely motivated with high intensity, and we've shown we can compete with anyone, and we can compete with anyone when we do that. Apart from maybe Arsenal because they are a different breed this season. But we've shown it against Newcastle, competed. Everton, who were doing decent, competed. Again against Villa in the first half, competed very well. These are good teams. Bournemouth, they slipped off recently, but good team. For 90 minutes, for 85 minutes, we were so good in that game at competing. And again, we've seen it against City in the second half, and we saw it against Chelsea for most of the game, not all of it. Some of it, they were on top. But it's the competitive side of it is what I love to see. The tackles. You know what I like about these players, mate? They're not overly emotional. They get it. When they make a hard tackle, it's usually fair. Not one of them that's reckless or silly. Usually quite fair tackles. Ampadu's very good at that. Strout's good at it. Even Stack and people like that. So, yeah, that was a performance that the Leeds I liked earlier on in the season. That was the performance we did, and we did it against a good team and got our rightful rewards, in my opinion. I thought seriously professional and seriously not emotional, but I guess it was an emotional performance. Yeah, they played for the manager. They did.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree on that because, there were discussions earlier in the season. We heard, of course, as we always said, we respect every opinion, but we agree to disagree. I think there were some discussions about players not feeling not trusting the system of the manager, or not trusting the manager earlier in the season when I remember saying like they've trusted him, the core of our team has trusted him in the last 2 seasons, and some of them like Ampadu,
Yeah.
James, some of them have enjoyed a surge in form compared to the previous season when they were at Leeds or where they were playing in Italy, like Ampadu, for example, Rodon for another one that moved to Spurs, then went to France. But like Strauk, Rodon, James, even Aronson last season, Ampadu, of course, has reason to become a very reliable Premier League player. Even yesterday, the tackles that he made, the mentality. There's that picture, of course, during the rounds this morning with him in the face of Enzo Fernandez. That absolutely summarizes his game yesterday. The calmness. He was always calm. He's always composed. When you said the tackles were fair, absolutely, we were always composed. We didn't got carried away by the flow of the game. We were always composed, aggressive but composed. Because like with the attitude of we know what we're doing. The Italian commentator said Farke has prepared this game very well. And that was from a neutral, because yesterday Chelsea really struggled to get a grasp. Sorry, keep mixing grasp. I think it's the right
Grasp,
term.
yeah.
Grasp of late. Because honestly, the way the team was set up was absolutely spot on. They did their analysis, they did their job, yesterday. Because basically Chelsea never got any verticality, or very little at least. Never got any momentum in their build up. The organized press into the centre backs. They relied, like you said, mate. We don't need to rely on individual players. We need to rely on a system. Yes, absolutely, and that can apply also to them yesterday, because yesterday the system didn't work and they relied basically on Estevao in the first half, or Gittens was double team on the left with Bogle and Rodon also helping him, or one of the midfielders, and on the left Gudmundsson did an amazing job on Estevao. Probably it was this time they were singing Elland Road. I don't like it, because that they sing that Estevao. I like it. Their new
Is
chant.
that
He
the
didn't
song?
like it yesterday. He didn't
It
like it
didn't.
yesterday, probably. He didn't, because like I said it to you when we were watching the game. It reminded me of that that game versus Man United, that every time David Batty gets mentioned, that clip of him, making it a nightmare for Cristiano Ronaldo, very young 17-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo. Esteval is around the same age, and yesterday I think it was the game he struggled the most, since he moved to England. But yeah, overall everyone did his job. I think there was also some performances that went under the radar. Like Stark did an amazing job, or Cucurella, because Cucurella was turning inside. Was a could find a more certain position when they were in possession, and he did an amazing job following him in the defensive end. Like Gudmundsson, Bogle, very good on both sides. But yeah, do you point it out, apart from of course, the motivation? Because yesterday I think they did a great service, a great homage to Wilco being at the stadium. It looked like a lot like a team from those days, in terms of unity.
100%.
And it's also a testament, what Leeds, if everyone is united, from the players to the fans, with everything in between, the public debate, the media, the board, the recruitment. If everyone is aligned on a vision, that's a testament of what we can achieve together. Everyone, a united Leeds front. But do you point it out on the different mentality that we're showing now, the aggression, or do you think, because obviously we talked, I think we were the first ones to talk about possible switch when the wingers were not working in the 4-3-3. I remember it was like episode 3 or episode 4 of our podcast.
Yeah, 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones that we did, and we did that presentation. Not a presentation, of course, that we spent a lot of time, because of course it wasn't we didn't have a crowd in presence, in place. We did a extensive coverage of possible alternatives, and we talked about that 3-5-2 with Okafor as a second striker and Machao DCL as the 9. And of course, we pointed out that we didn't have enough depth, because in the end, it is true, because if you look at the bench now, you just have Bornau as the centre back. When Tanaka went off, he went off for Gruev, who is a completely different player, a defensive midfielder. You just have James Justin and Byram for Vogel and Gudmundsson, So do you point it out on the different mentality, the better fitness, because we look better now in terms of fitness? Or do you think that the new system has traits that help the players that we have to perform better, especially when we recover the ball, when we transition from defense to attack?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think the system definitely has traits that help certain players, but then also every system has its own pros and cons, right? So this system, and I'll go through players, Biol obviously looks much better in the centre of a back three. You all right?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
You don't need to take it? Is that all right? Yeah.
No. It's the phone was ringing, but don't worry, go on.
Right,
we won't cut it. Go on.
Yeah, so there you go, guys. So sometimes if there's a random cut, that's why. But yeah, so Biol obviously looks more comfortable in the middle of a back three, right? I think that's clear. He played there at Udinese, obviously. He just looks more comfortable, plays there for his country. And so definitely for him. I think for Strauch and Rodon, it's similar. I think they're good in both. So I think not too different for them. Even our fullbacks, there's a lot more balance in this one. Midfield's similar. It's a 3 still, very similar roles. But obviously, when you've got Tanaka playing, which obviously we want to see every game, you see a difference in what he can do and the tempo and the balance he brings. But the difference for me, the only real proper difference, apart from Biol looking comfortable, is 2 up top. There's many different variations of how you can play a 2 up top. 4-4-2, I think, is another shape that if we do need more players wider in certain games, if we use our wingers, we could probably stick with a 2 up top and bring our wingers on, sacrifice a centre back potentially. But then, yeah, it's the balance for me. It's workload as well. So I'm looking at this formation, and we said this many times. Again, I think podcast 3 or 4, we went through each formation and pros and cons. With this one, I think the clear pros are the 2 up top. We look better in terms of outlet. It's just better, isn't it, to have 2 up there than 1? the way we are, like I said, not relying on our wingers to be creative because they're not really creative players. We need that physical superiority, and that's coming through the 2 up top and the 3 in midfield. Now, where it worries me, if this is a consistent thing, is the workload of certain players. So, for example, there is a huge reliance, that Metcher and Calvert-Lewin stay fit for the rest of the season if this is what we're going with. Right? That's my worry. Because history will tell you they won't be able to stay fit. That's a worry. Look, you can talk about the bench. Yeah, we have Okafor. Yeah, good option. We have Pirot, but they're different players. If they're the replacements, they're not the physical outlet, are they? Really, we're playing differently with them up top. It's a different format. It's a different, not formation, but we'll play differently. We can't go long to him, is my point. So there's a huge reliance on them too, and therefore a massive workload for them to get through. Realistically, one of them will probably have to play 90 minutes every game. You can rotate that, but that's a lot for them 2 players. And again, looking at fullbacks, it works for them too. I think these 2 are good in a back 4 or a back 3. I think they're good either, back 5.
Yeah.
But again, the workload for them now is massive. It was anyway in a 4, let's be honest, because we only had 1. But now as a wing back in this system, they have more reliance to get higher because they are our width. We don't have wingers. They have less cover in front of them because we don't have wingers. So their workload is higher within game. That puts a lot more strain on both of them. You could see at 60, 70 minutes, both of them were starting to tire. They needed more recovery after each sprint, right? So that's an issue. Obviously, we have Justin, who is a good backup, very good backup, but there's only one of him. And each week, it will require rotation. So they're the 2 problems. They're the 2 issues for me in terms of workload. The midfield's fine. It's the same thing, the same midfield. But the front 2 have a lack of rotation for similar options within that shape. Same at fullback. Centre-back as well. Them 3 are quality. But the depth is not there.
No,
it's one injury away, assuming Bornau's fit, to no centre-backs on the bench. 0. That's it. When you're playing a back 3, that's a worry. And what that means is, if you do need to change it, and maybe we do need to play with wingers in a certain game, we need to adapt. You obviously sacrifice the centre-back with that, potentially. There's a problem there, right? There's no variation. You can't really change. So it's got pros, and it's working now. But my main thing, and this is what's important for me mainly, we've seen this season against Fulham, Newcastle, Everton, Bournemouth for most of the game. The first half against Villa, the 4-3-3 was good and competitive. People are diminishing it like it went away. It didn't.
Yeah.
In the last 2 games, it was poor, but it's worked a lot this season. This is now working. Teams are now going to have a bigger sample size the more we play it, and they'll be able to adapt to how we play. So we need to have a consistent change. For me, this is where it's important that Farke's now established, all right, this can work in certain situations, and it is working now. So, of course, you play it. Of course, keep with it for now for me. But be aware that teams will adapt to how we're playing, just like they did with the 4-3-3. They are now seriously going to... I'm going to get this up real quick, actually, because I wanted to explain this just very quickly. So this is it, right? Structurally similar, right? The midfield will rotate, obviously. They'll probably go over side, actually. It's probably more like that. But realistically, the problem that you have with this formation, potentially, by the way, is the wide areas, obviously.
There's just one lucky one problem. You have Barry on the front goal.
Yeah, he's up top, mate. Some would say keep him up there. But anyway, yeah. So this is it. Now, naturally, the ball will be the opposition because I can't be bothered getting the things, assuming this is opposition. Naturally, where it's good, again, in a press, the front 2 is better in a 4-3-3 because there's one of them, right? So you can angle, so you can force them out one way. Oh my God, this is stressing me out. So that we can force them out, right? With 2 up top.
Yeah.
Calvert-Lewin can cut the line off, Metcher can pressure. Same either side. Metcher can press essentially. Calvert-Lewin can go out. The problem with this formation is wide areas. These guys are massively exposed. In a 4-3-3, they have cover. Quite easy. Simple. In a back 3, The cover, really, if they're doing it, probably has to be a midfielder, which makes the workload of the midfielders more because their movement is constantly this, right? Which can also create a bit of a space in the middle.
Yeah.
There's no natural cover for the fullbacks in a back three. That's the issue. It's good in here. Centrally, it's good. It's solid. You've got 5 players there that can cover spaces and the back three. What we saw a lot in the game was Strout doing this. Strout would track the player. I can't remember who was marking, but a lot of the time in the second half as well, it was up here tracking.
I think he was following like João Pedro in my
Yeah,
opinion.
he was.
Right.
Now,
Or even Dilap at times too.
That's a choice we made, but even more that can expose a fullback. My point being, with a back 5, the issue is the workload of the fullback because they're our width. And that means right up to the top, which they did. But every time they have to recover. Because if we're relying on a centre-back to recover, this is a bad area for these guys. If we're relying on a midfielder to do that, we then lose our advantage in midfield. If they're playing a 3, we lose our overload. So there's serious workload on wing backs in this system. So it's really important that we get that balance right. Now, what I was looking at in terms of alternates as well, if we play this, say we play this formation, but then maybe we adjust. Maybe we go like this. Maybe play a little bit more, deeper, potentially. So now if you go like this, what in a 3-4-2-1, you could maybe afford one of these guys to play wider in possession, a bit like this, to give the fullback, you see, a little bit more cover. Kind of goes into a 4-3-3 in that sense, doesn't it? Same at this side. You could play the striker there. You've got a little bit more cover for the fullbacks now, if you do that. But also, a 4-2-2. This is where our wingers come into it. If we can bring on a Nonto and a James, fresh wingers, whoever they are, we've still got the 2 up top. We're still maintaining that security. If the game has gone from central to a wide game, say they're creating overloads wide, we'll have to adjust. You can't constantly play the 3-5-2. You'll get overrun. This is where we can keep the 2 up top. Yeah, you lose 1 in midfield, but if the game's in wide areas, if that's where their threat is, you've got 2 covering. And let's be honest, they come in there to make a 4 midfield, and you've got 2 up top. So you can angle the press again into wide areas. So this is my point. There's variations. I don't want us to stick to it to depth. I want us to stick to it for now. I want us to adjust it because there will be times where the opposition will go, right, we'll just expose their fullbacks. They know in the 60th, 65th minute, our fullbacks will be tired. They're going to expose that. And there were times in the games. Exactly. There were times in the games where they made their subs on the wing. They went 1v1 against Bogle and Gunnarsson, and they struggled. That's not their problem. That's where we need to have the options or the depth or the change of system to adjust that. Whether that's bringing wingers in, going 4-4-2, so they can cover, and give them more space. I don't know. But it's working, but it needs to be adjusted. We can't rely on it. Sorry, I'm just trying to... This is the worst thing to get out of, by the way. We can't rely on it to be the only option we have. Just like when people said in the 4-3-3, I'll leave that on for now. Just like when people said in the 4-3-3, we were over-reliant on it. Yes. Yeah. And now I don't want us to be over-reliant on this. Let's use what we have and adjust. We have wingers on the bench. Use them if we have to. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, we cannot afford to not adapt, to be fair, in games, because again, it's really odd, to be fair, to see us talking about this, because we talked about this like 1 month ago.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about this because the 3-5-2 actually has happened, and we're talking about the issues that we actually analyzed 1 month ago. So we there's not much to say, honestly, because we talked plenty about that 1 month ago. But yeah, the problem is that if you want to stick with 3-5-2 for the full 90 minutes, you don't have the proper replacements, because okay, maybe for the second striker you have Okafor, yes, or Piro. But the second striker needs to make run from behind the old up number 9, let's call it like that, So yesterday when I saw Okafor coming on, I expected him to come on for DCL, to be fair, because I think matchup was more pivotal than DCL, especially in the second half, in the keeping of the ball. Then after that, of course, DCL scored in that terrible goal that Chelsea caused to themselves, with the Rabayo, but terrible goal. Also because Leeds were pressing properly when the ball was there, and that was very good to see, honestly. Them pressing the ball on our left wing, the right wing, of course, then being ready to pressure them and capitalize and use one mistakes to score that goal. But apart from that, I think I was not aligned, honestly, when I saw Match and Tanaka come off, honestly, because I think Tanaka was pivotal, and now Tanaka needs to be first name in midfield, another two names, because the versatility
Yeah.
that he has, the link up, especially the ball recovery, because even when he scored the goal, he was stuck, did that quite a few times too, when we were recovering the ball, we were very well structured defensively. But then when you recover the ball or send the ball long for the strikers, they were isolated. DCL and Mecha, they were on their own. We needed another one following them. When Stack and Tanaka did that, they allow us to get the tempo to allow the fullbacks to contribute and get forward. Transition from the defensive phase to the offensive phase, and transfer that recovery into an advantage for us. A situation where we could thrive, honestly, and we did, actually. But yeah, the problem is that Nyonto, Aronson, Harrison, they don't have a place in a 3-5-2, because some people suggested, play them as wingbacks, but they're not wingbacks, They cannot do the defensive workload that Gudmundsson and Bogle took yesterday. They're completely different players. They are wingers. Harrison works in a 4-4-2, for example. Nyonto, I have doubts about Nyonto, honestly, in a 4-4-2, but because of the physicality required for that, Nyonto, for me, is very good in a front three, for example, compared to Harrison. Harrison is better in a midfield four for me. But Harrison, in a certain sense, in the future years of his career, I think he can adapt, but it takes time to a wingback role, because his defensive work is not there yet, so he's not a wingback right now. But looking at the body type and the way he plays, he can definitely improve his defensive rate, his defensive positioning, and play in a similar role to what Gudmundsson did, in the future, not right now, of course. But the problem is that Justin, when he came on, for example, I would have taken Gudmundsson off because he looked really, really tired, but it took Bogle. So as you pointed out, we just have one. We cannot afford to change both fullbacks. So Farke was forced to pick to pick one, and he picked Bogle yesterday for Justin. But I see teams like Atalanta, Fiorentina. There's the majority of teams in Serie A plays with a back three. 3-5-2, 3-4-2-1. I'm looking at Inter Milan, I'm looking at Fiorentina, Atalanta. Like Atalanta, I have Bellanova on the right and Zappacosta on the left, but they can change, and they have Zalewski and Bernasconi ready to come in. The Inter Milan have, for example, Dumfries, Carlos Augusto. All of them have four of them, basically, four proper wing backs,
And you need that, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
the workload
Workload,
is
yeah,
crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Even Fiorentina, they're doing very bad in Serie A, but they have like Dodò, Parisi, Gosens, Fortini, even a young player, young, is 2021, I think. But yeah, the problem is that Justin, for me, is a fullback in a back four, because he doesn't have the offensive threat that Bogle has, for example. So when he arrived, you see him, very good positioning defensively, but you see that his run is a heavy run, not a fast run like Bogle, like Gudmundsson. So of course it's mandatory, because I always supported, sustained the fact that I think Underwood built this team solely for 4-3-3, and I think that proves that the fact that we are full of wingers, and three wingers didn't play a single minute, two wingers and an attacking midfielder didn't play a single minute yesterday. But we don't have the cover to sustain long term this formation, a formation that is it's showing that promising sign, that it has promising signs to suit the best football for the players that we have, the skills of the players that we have, like Gudmundsson, Bogle, Okafor. I've always said that I think he's better as a second striker, running from behind the striker rather than on the left wing. But on the other hand, if you want to keep playing with this formation, you need January is just 1 month away. You need to invest
Yeah.
in January to bring in the proper backup because again, if Rodon, Strauk, or Biol, one of them gets injured, there's more now. But you don't have a centre back from the academy right now ready to be on the bench and make an impact. And make an impact. Same for the fullbacks. We don't have a proper product or a proper player ready to be involved in the first team from the academy, like Archie Gray back in the day. So you need to invest in that, and that might mean sell one of the wingers or loan off one of the wingers or one of the strikers like Pirot, for example, because in the end it's mandatory to have two proper replacements for the wing backs, because you see every team that plays with a back three, they have a lot of refreshments, a lot of change replacements on the wing, because the most demanding position in a formation with a back three is the wing back.
Yep.
The wing backs are the most hit by that formation, or in terms of fitness. And like you said, Lockie, the consistency long term in terms of keeping the fitness, because it's really demanding. And right now we have 11 players for this formation, but we have one or two replacements, but we don't have the depth to sustain in long term. So we are forced, if a player is tired, to change in game to a 4-4-2, to a 4-2-3-1. Despite the fact that I really fear a midfield duo for us this season in the Premier League, honestly, because I don't think we have the pace to sustain it in the middle. I absolutely think we should keep playing with a midfield trio. Problem is that right now with long stuff off, we just have Gruev on the bench.
Yeah.
A defensive midfielder, and there's no other that box to box, because we don't have a box to box for me. Proper box to box. I mean, you can also move off the ball like Stack and Tanaka did, but a ball recovery box to box player, one that can play both phases. So yeah, we just have Gruev, and yeah, I think long term you need to adapt in game. So people should expect that. So if Farke changes in a game, we don't know if Farke is going to be the manager still, because we're talking about a very good win, but of course we have just won. Now it's up to us to find consistency, because if we lose or draw against Liverpool, maybe a draw will be welcomed, honestly, positively. But if we lose against Liverpool, the atmosphere before this game will return, honestly, I think, and we'll hear about Gary O'Neill. Again, I think it was really disrespectful with that, honestly, because you see rumors during the week when we play on a Saturday. Yesterday we saw rumors like 2 hours before the match. They don't have to keep the mindness, the concentration that you have in a camp on match day. They really don't, And I was on both sides of the fence, as a journalist, as a pundit, and as a media officer in a club. You can see a scheme there, honestly. That those rumors don't help. They honestly they disrupt the balance of a team before a big match like yesterday. And so seeing the reaction of the players gave a different meaning, even more meaning, honestly, to the 3 points in that situation, under pressure and under siege, because it was like seeing a under siege mentality, Leeds versus everyone, like the old days. And that's what needs to happen right now. Leeds against everyone.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's where we're best. But in order to be Leeds against everyone, this is where you need a group of players that understand and get that. I think and this is the importance of, and this is why people say this is the importance of having people like Sam Barham at your club. They've been through that. They know what that means. When Bielsa here, we had Calvin Phillips. He knew exactly what that meant. And this is where you can show that to the other players what that means. Alex Carnes is another one. His Leeds through and through. He knows what that means. He knows what siege mentality Leeds United is against the world is. He's been there. He's seen it. And this is where it's important to have players of that experience. That's why I've always said I'd bring James Milner back, because he knows everything about. He's at Leeds when he was young. He's won everything. Is that perfect role model to have at a club. that every player, if you're a young Leeds lad or you're an international player, he's won everything, he's done everything. So having players like that at your club are important. And you're right, and this is the thing with the formation. This is the thing with how we're playing. You mentioned before when you asked me the question about the mentality of it. I think a lot of it is down to that. I think the current formation, as in terms of a tactical approach, has left other managers wondering what we're going to do. I mean, Pep said it at the end of the game. He said they went to a back three, we couldn't adjust. Good. We shocked him. I think Foden said it actually after his game. He said they changed formation, we didn't know how to react. Perfect. Let's do that every now and again. Let's not be what's the word? Predictable now. Let's every now and again, let's throw what formation we're playing here. I like that. That's good because these top teams, if you settle in a formation in the Premier League and you play that and they know what you're going to do, they have the best analysts, the best coaches in the world. They will find ways to exploit you time and time again. It's really important that you consistently change. So the main thing is how you apply that. And that comes down to the mentality of the players and the manager. That comes down to getting the best out of each individual. I look at DCL and Mecha yesterday. Wow. That front two was a joke. That is exactly what you need them to do in that role. Now, there's been times this season where DCL's played poor by himself. There's been times where he's played well by himself. He doesn't need to have a front two to play well, DCL. He can do it. A lot of that is down to him. Go out there and do what you know you can. He can play over one. He's done it loads. He can play over two. He's a good player. Same for Mecha. You've got to look at each individual. Look what they did yesterday. Look how hard they ran. Look how hard they worked. That's not a formation thing. They're not saying, we can run now. We've changed formation. That's them playing for the manager. That's each individual taking responsibility for their role and applying it to the best ability on the pitch and working as hard as they can. Now, for us as fans, seeing the team and for the opposition playing against us, changing the formation or the shape is massively beneficial because they don't know how to react to that. I think the best example is against Villa, half-time, really good first half for us in our old shape in the back four. Really good first half. We can't deny it. It was really good. Everything we just spoke about, the players did. All right, obviously, we're never perfect. But second half, Villa were the ones that reacted. They changed their shape. We didn't know how to react, right? And then we know what happened. That's where we need to change. Whereas 1 week later against City, it was opposite way around. City dominated his first half, right? They knew our shape. They've got games and games of analysis to go through. They know exactly what we're going to do. We were the ones that changed it the second half. We made the changes. We played three at the back. They did not know how to react to that. That's the surprise. We shocked them. And that's football at times. Now, that's great. But don't let this be stale. If it's working, good. But if we play a half, we're 2-0 down, it's not working, then change it. Let's not be predictable. Let's keep teams guessing because we don't have individual players that can win us games. We rely on the system, like we said. So while it's working, good. But I'm concerned that we're going to over-rely on it like maybe we did the 4-3-3. I'm not saying change it. I think right now, if I'm being honest, keep it. It's doing well. But say we play Liverpool, they're exposing us in wide areas every single time. They're creating overloads out wide. We can't deal with it. You simply have to go back to a 4-3-3 to give the fullbacks cover, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Or maybe change
Adapting game.
Exactly. So, but the mentality of the players for me is what I've always liked. I remember a few weeks ago, about a month ago now, I remember coming on here and saying, I just love watching this team. I'm excited watching this team every week. That had dropped recently. I got to the point where it felt like a bit of a chore. I feel like they felt like that. But yesterday, everything just came together because of the news with the manager. Anyone that said, and people did say this online, that will be questioning if the players are playing for the manager. This is where it gets to the point where things can be bad, things can be wrong, but not everything's bad. They always played for the manager to a fault. That's probably why we lost some games because the players stuck to their roles. The players love this manager. No one can deny that. They'll try, but they love him. They want him as the manager. They don't want anyone else. It's like when not the same level for a fan, but for a player. It's like when Bielsa left, and all them players who achieved so much with that man, they weren't really that bothered. That's the wrong word. They were not as motivated with the other managers than they were Bielsa,
Yeah,
because that's the man they've won things with. They got promoted with. They finished 9th in the Premier League. You remove Farke from that with this current squad, I think you struggle to get more out of each player. I'll be honest. I don't know what you think about
especially with the supposed manager in line, Gary O'Neill. Honestly,
that. Yeah.
I don't think it's an improvement. It will be an improvement compared to Farke. And apart from that, Farke it was always and is always going to be criticized. It was criticized for Ramazani last season. It was criticized for Nyonto when James and Solomon were performing better than them. Simple as that. Like he's not playing Ramazani, but yeah, the other players were playing better. Than him in terms of GA. He was playing Ramazani before he got injured. Actually, the best moment of we've seen Ramazani in a Leeds shirt was before his injury, and he was playing actually. But yeah, overall, Farke is in terms of a manager, is not an emotional one. Even his comments that we talked about 2 weeks ago about the fan base being emotional, they were taken out of context. Like they were portrayed in a certain sense, like he was beefing with the Leeds fans, because of course talking about Farke, I'm not talking about criticizing or praising Farke, but trying to spin the narrative of Farke works these days, honestly. And we've also seen, that I always said I respect every opinion, but it's not about opinion; it's about supporting the team. When I've read comments like after Man City, now it's very poor. I would prefer to lose like 4-0 or 5-0 rather than 3-2, because now it means Farke has a lifeline. I don't care if Farke has a lifeline or not. We had come from 2 goals behind to draw 2-2, and then we conceded in a poor goal, because I think also it was free in the box. Foden and Perry could have done better there. I think even yesterday, the goal we conceded, I think the communication between Perry and the centre backs needed to be better, because they expected him to come out to grab the ball, and he expected them to head the ball. So everyone froze, and Neto got the ball, and the save was on his goalpost. The goalpost he was on. So I think he could have done better there. But apart from that, I'm more happy, honestly, when I see positive signs compared to the precedent defeats, where we absolutely didn't have a reaction, like Forest, like Brighton, Villa, a little bit better, but I won't call that a positive performance, especially in the second half. The first one was very good. So I've seen no, I would prefer to lose by a larger margin, not like this, because Farke now is going to have some justifications to keep his job. And even yesterday, there were people like, I hope we like comparing that game to the Liverpool one under Marsh. Like, support the team. Like we always said, side before self. Don Revy said, if everyone is Leeds United minded and works in the same direction, I have it here too, like on the book from Dan Chapman, Moscow White. A lot of people remember him. Like the correct one is, if everybody pulls together and it's Leeds United minded, then we shall get somewhere.
There you go.
That was said from the greatest manager Leeds ever had. He has a stand name after him, a statue outside the ground. His legacy is still at Leeds. It was still there for decades after he left. So I don't get this, like, okay, I want my team to lose because I want to be proven right, and I want the manager that I don't like to go. Care about the results of the team, Like when we had Avi Gracia, I think Avi Gracia is the worst manager Leeds ever had, honestly. So I criticized him heavily. If you go and check on my Twitter, go on my profile, type the search and type Gracia. I think looking at the way he managed the games, for me, the worst manager Leeds ever had. Even worse than Sam Allardyce. Looking at its in-game management, he made some decisions this game that are completely, for me, they were unjustifiable, unthinkable. But I never said, like, I was angry we were losing games. But even when we won at Wolves, was it? Or Watford, I can't remember. I think it was at Wolves. because I remember I listened to that game on the.
Yeah.
I wasn't at home. When we won, I said, "Wow, he finally reacted," and it's good because he's helping us. That result would be massive to stay up. It turned out he didn't, but I still hoped, despite not liking his style of football and management, I still hope he could have turned that around. So do the same for Farke. It's not down only just to the fans, because I've seen in Italy managers attending games. Like we've seen Alfred Schroeder, probably you remember him when in the final season when we got relegated. It was at the ground and there was huge uproar on Twitter. I was part of that because I don't think he's a good manager and probably turned out to be true because look at the trajectory of his career right now. He did well as an understudy for Ten Hag at Ajax, but then like Brugge were the best team in the league. Had problems behind the scenes there apparently, but then he managed like in the United Arab Emirates, in that region. I think in Saudi or Qatar. I cannot remember the next steps he took, or Cyprus. But in Italy, you see managers when a manager's job is on the line. You see managers that are who are free agents in the stands, like they are like vultures hanging from behind, waiting for like I'm here watching you. Up you fail, so I jump in. Even the rumors. I know that journalists do their job, of course, but of course you see, as I'm sure you mentioned, it came out from national outlets, not the local Leeds ones. So that's also a big difference. So the national outlets and the name of Gary O'Neill specifically.
Yeah.
So everyone can, of course, have an opinion on that and try to analyze that. But to have that before a big match, okay, we talked about it being disrespectful, but it disrupts the harmony of the team before a big game. And now Farke, of course, it's still long. It's still a mountain to climb. If we lose or have a bad performance against Liverpool, we are down again to camp base, during this mountaineer experience, But Farke, after yesterday, he comes out stronger, as a figure, because under threat, like the Italian commentator kept saying, Farke has not moved, has not changed his facial expression. And when 90 seconds were left, he had like a bump, towards one of our players. And the commentator said, that's the first time Farke has moved all evening. And his facial expression changed.
I was just going to quickly add on to that.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, like at the end, when the Sky camera was on him, when all the players were doing the lap, he was just stood there, just looking at the stand. And he looked a little bit, he weren't crying, but he looked a little bit like emotional, and he was kind of looking around. I feel like this was, he felt the pressure. He tried not to show it, but he felt it. And that is down to, obviously, the leaked press. But you could see it, he was just kind of stood there like that going, like, I'm here. They did it for me. Thank you. He was looking at the players as they were doing the clap. He was looking at them, and you could tell it meant a lot to him. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no worries, absolutely. But yeah, I think he's stronger because he's proven that in the most difficult time for him, he delivered and outsmarted Maresca for the third time, basically, because maybe just the second, because in the end, honestly, when we beat them 3-1, they dominated the game, and we just played. Yeah, I think that was one of the worst performances that we had that season before the final 15-20 minutes when Leicester completely switched off and we completely went ultra offensive and scored with every opportunity, basically. Even the deflected shot from Arch, But that game, honestly, they missed some key shots. Even I opened one with Passundak, I think.
They did. But that was bad.
Yeah, that were bad. But yeah, overall, I think now Farke has the opportunity, if he has a good result against Liverpool, to really build some foundation on this one. Some solid foundations, but also adaptable. And when I mean adaptable is that we always said when we analyze that we don't have many adaptable players that can play in multiple positions. So that's why we need to adapt in game with different style of formations, I know, like I said before, I know people maybe will say if we have a better result, why did he change it? He does that to himself, He's not sticky now. He has found like this the holy grail, It looks like the 3-5-2 is like the holy grail now, but he has some leaks that the other teams can exploit. It's not perfect. It's the most suited one for the current 11 that we had, but it's not perfect. It's not gonna always perform like it did against Chelsea. So in certain games, if you have players that are overtired, because the overload will be massive on the current 11, the overload in terms of runs, of intensity will be massive, and it will take a toll on us at one point, one way or another, or like it did with Bielsa when we played that ultra offensive, high pressing style of football. So we will need to adapt, like switch from 3-5-2 in game to a 3-5-2-1 or a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, because we may, like we did yesterday, Tanaka for Gruev, center mid for defensive midfielder. We may have to like put Biol out or Strauk or Rodon out in one game, more likely to be Biol, because Strauk and Rodon in a back four, they are more better paired, compared to Rodon and Biol, for example. We may be forced to take Biol out in a certain moment of the game and put like a winger on, or put like to put one of the two strikers out and add another midfielder, in terms of a winger to be more defensive minded. Why? Because we don't have the depth role for role in terms of characteristics and what the players can offer on the bench, off the bench. I said everything basically off from off the bench. So to make this play, to get these players involved, because Aronson, whether you play him with a back 3-5-2, same for Harrison and same for Nyonto. That's why if these players will still play a part in this formation, you need to adapt in game. And that's good, because in the end yesterday, when he made the final sub, he put out Bornau too. So because he wanted to be with a compact back four of centre backs, basically.
Centre backs,
yeah.
Well,
so it's
you're
reached
right,
actually. It's reached for the for the edit time. Yeah,
he did. But this is the thing with the 3-5-2. Like where I work, that's the formation they play for the most part. They do adapt slightly, but it's always usually a back three of some sort. They do sometimes go one up top and play with two inside forwards behind, but very much so a back three. And one thing and we saw this against Chelsea, that a back three can provide at times, it is a lot of transitioning. It can be very unstable at times, a back three, because there's a lot of players that have to recover here. For example, a midfielder might have to help out wide. A fullback has to recover deeper. A centre back might have to go out into midfield, follow the striker if he's going there. So there's a lot of recovery. The striker might have to drop deep, and it can get quite transitional and quite chaotic. And I think we saw that in certain instances yesterday. The period in the game where it was very end-to-end. They couldn't keep hold of the ball. We couldn't keep hold of the ball, which is fine. I don't hate that, as long as we get the better of that. But the point being, the workload in a back three for anyone, but probably the centre backs, is more, because naturally you have less attackers. So, and your width is only from fullbacks. So it's a very hard workload, and you have to be a seriously fit team to do it. It can work later on in games if you're a fit team. You can create overloads up wide. You can dominate physically. Midfield battle, you can win that as well. But again, you need depth. You need rotation. It is key. So if we're doing this, whatever variation we play of a front two and a back three, whatever that is, rotation later on in the season will be so important. It's a good job we've got a transfer window coming up, isn't it, Andrea? So let's.
absolutely.
For me now, if this is the blueprint, I think you're right. We don't need four wingers. We just don't. That's a fact of it. That we have what, one place in the squad, I believe, for the full 25-man squad. We have 4 goalkeepers. Don't think we need 4. I think 3 is fine. We have, if we're playing a back three, we have 1 spare centre back.
Yeah.
We have 1 spare wing back, who's more of a full back, but it's fine, right? He can do a job. We have 4 wingers, and we have no like for like backup striker if our 2 injury-prone strikers or our 2 strikers that have a lot of work to do gets injured or needs a rest, we don't have a like for like.
Yeah.
So for me now, I'm looking at this team going, we need a striker, we need a centre back, a backup, and a full back in the window minimum. And what you can do with that, obviously, but that's 3 and we have 1 space. So for me, this is where I'm looking at the wingers that most of them are not going to be useful now. If this is the main formation, one of them might have to go out on loan. Can we sell a goalkeeper? This is it now. If we're doing this, we have to align the squad to it. Not just the 11, but the 6 or 7 or 8 subs behind that. Because the workload, I promise you, I watch 352 every single week. The workload is very, very big. It's a lot for a lot of players, probably maybe apart from centre-backs who are kind of just there to head it and pass it to the full-backs. But it is. So we need I'm hoping that we can sort that out. Because if we do that, and we can just be a little in games again, adjust as well. We have Okafor, we have Nonto. When James is back, we still have them 3 good wingers. If we need to go wing on the wing, that's fine. For an adjustment in a game, bringing James and Okafor on is pretty decent. We have that. But we need the depth in the areas where the workload is very high. And we don't have that. That's my worry.
Yeah. So there's also a fun thing, for me personally, because now I have, of course, Leeds and my local team, Regina, playing with this exact same formation, but Regina play with a 3-4-2-1. But what happens there is that, and we lack that kind of profile, on the team. They play with a number 9 that who needs to be like the older player, moves all around in the opposition half. Regina play a more deep to counter attack based kind of football, so defensive ball recovery, transition with fast players, But we don't have that kind of player because behind the 9, they have on the left Portanova, who is an attacking midfielder, plays as the left winger basically. And on the right, they have Tafshan, for example, former under-21 Dutch player with Somerville. His left footed, so plays on the right and goes inside and frees up the space for the right wing back to get into, on the wing. Well, what they do when they are not in possession is that Portanova drops in midfield, so it's a midfield 3. He sacrifices himself on the defensive end, but then when they switch, he counterattacks and he's like a second striker in a certain sense, if you get what I mean. He takes part in the transition. But it's like on the bench, if you want to switch to a 3-5-2-1, getting out a midfielder and, for example, playing an attacking midfielder, the only one that you have is Aronson for that role. The problem is that Portanova, for example, is a physical player. Aronson is not a physical player. So Portanova works in that, for example, because it's physical. So the defensive end, he can contribute in terms of bringing the quantity, the physical presence, but he also has the quality to switch and take part in attack. Aronson doesn't have that on the defensive end. He cannot play as a number 8, basically, in a 3-5-2. So yeah, there's a lot of spaces that needs to be sorted before in the transfer window, not before in the transfer window. But yeah, you need to select, even making other choices. You need to select the players that you want to move on, honestly, or loan off. Because it's mandatory to get the picks right. In terms from the transfer window. So yeah, anything you want to add, Lucky?
I just want to ask. So based on that, So assuming, I believe we do have 1 squad space left until we've got a full squad. So what, in January then, if we're predominantly playing this formation, or we're playing a back 3, whatever rotation that may be at the top, who are you bringing in, like in terms of position, but also who are you letting go? Who are you sending out on loan or selling? Who would you?
Well, I will loan out, honestly, because the contract is long, so I don't think we'll sell him. Pirot. I don't think Nyonto will have many offers, to be fair, but you can try to loan him out. Aronson, honestly, I don't think they're moving because the high regards that Farke has for him. But in this formation, again, I don't know where to put him, honestly, to be fair. Gruev needs to stay at this point. If we were playing it off 4-3-3, probably there were, because of course he played the full season at Werder Bremen, so he would have offers there in the Bundesliga, but maybe he wants to play more. I don't know. Compared to the last 2 seasons, because the season he played the most was when Stroud got injured and Ampadu was moved to centre back. Then he played alongside Kamara 2 years ago. So realistically, the players to move on for me will be Harrison. But apart from the MLS, honestly, I struggle to see another solution for him. Gnonto, if you have loan offers, maybe to build also his momentum back, you can consider those. Pirot. Then, of course, Gruev, it's in the balance now. I think we need to sign someone in midfield to honestly to sustain it, because you have Longstaff, Stark, Ampadu, Tanaka, and Gruev, so 5 basically. So you have 3 playing and 2 on the bench, but all of them have a similarity, despite some key differences. All of them are link-up players for me. So I will sign a different profile. If there's more room, I will sign 2, but it's really unlikely. So at least 1, a box-to-box 1. Then you need to sign, honestly, a left back, a left wing back, because you cannot rely on Sam Byram. Byram is a good option if you are in emergency, of course. But we know he's like a player like Cairns. He's like a veteran player, like Cooper was in the championship with the final seasons, the final 2 seasons at Leeds for him, But yeah, honestly, Pirot, Harrison, Gnonto, and of course Meslier. Yeah, Meslier needs to go in January, absolutely 100%. And it's in his interest to go, honestly, because of course now he is 25. He needs to go and play. Absolutely. How many years has he left on his contract? Honestly,
I don't know.
Quickly check on that. But if he has more than 1 year, you might consider to loan him out. But it's expiring next summer, his contract. So
Okay.
I don't know, honestly. Some players sit out when they are out of contract, because they can negotiate from January with the new club. But I think it's in his interest to find a new club. The problem is that no one will come with money to Leeds, because they know he's going to be out of contract 2026 in June. So your best option is to loan him out at this point. Yeah.
But we're in that
6 months.
Yeah, we're in that situation now where, in order to stay in this league, for me, we have to just get players off that we don't need, whether that's loan. We need players in that can affect what we're doing right now. We don't need 4 goalkeepers, in my opinion. I don't know why we've got 4.
On Melia too. On Melia, actually, I've read some reports in Italy, about him linked to Inter Milan, to other clubs in Italy, like there were Inter Milan. I think it was Tuttosport, the newspaper.
All right.
But honestly, I think it's because his agent is Pini Zahavi, Israeli agent.
Okay.
Very, very famous, but he works a lot with Italian clubs, his agent. But I think we're talking about June, and we're talking about a backup third option, because like Inter Milan, they have Sommer. They're looking for a good new goalkeeper, because Sommer is not playing well recently. He's made some shaky saves, even in the derby, So they have Giuseppe Martinez as the backup choice. Juve has Di Gregorio as the first choice, and Perin as the backup. Roma has Villar and Gollini as the backup. So all of them are covered. I think we're talking about third choice or backup for these ones. But it can be an option for him. But our best option is loan him out for 6 months, help him to build his status. We will get 0 money because he's out of contract next summer. But at least you free up a spot on the squad registration list for the Premier League.
Yeah. And I just want to end on. So it's like, I probably could say what I work. I just don't want to say. I want to keep it separate from working to. Yeah, I don't know. But where I work, it's like I say, I scout in terms of looking for players for the first team in a back three. A 3-5-2 is what we play. So I've got literally now 6 months of watching so many football. I showed you before, didn't I, mate? Watching so many players, how they work in the system. So if we do play this system going into January, don't you worry, I know exactly what we need. I know this system now. It's ingrained in my head. I know what we need. And the main outcome of a 3-5-2 or a whatever variation of that is physicality. Once you get rid of your creative wingers, you're kind of looking to solidify a kind of physical sense to the team. And 3-5-2 is very physical. More or less, the strikers have to be physical. That is a key thing that I found. Everyone that I scout or do a report on, the most important thing that I get told is, are they physical? Obviously, can they hold it up? Can they run in behind? When I say physical, I don't mean strong. Are they quick? Are they direct? These things are they competitive? These things are really important for a striker, which are to have. The others, the backups, are not that profile. They're a different profile, but they're not that profile. And it's the same in midfield. You want a lot of what we've got. That's a good midfield. But you do, and where I work, we have an option of a player who is more advanced. He will get the ball. He will drive forward a lot, probably too much sometimes. But finding that alternative or that option is something potentially. Wing back as well. Well, we have good wing back depth, and it's needed. And you actually, I can't say. Can I say? I don't know. I'm not gonna yet. Maybe one day I'll say where I work. But it's like the rotation within the wing backs is a lot because it's aware of how much workload they go through. So yeah, it's important that we seriously adjust our recruitment strategy now in January if we're going to buy anyone, which we need to, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely, man. There's no question.
Because finding players for a 4-3-3, apart from maybe midfield, is very different to finding players in a 3-5-2. Very different. The back three is different. Like you said, look at Biol in a back four compared to a back three. Imagine you're signing.
Another thing that we said. I mean?
Yeah. So we need it. It's an important transfer window, is what I'm ending on. I'm blabbering on, but we need to get this right because absolutely. Regardless of what happens, we need more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also another thing, that I've criticized the gaps that were left open by our director of football, Adam Underwood, but we still don't know what's going to happen and before the transfer window, if we're going to keep these positive signs after Chelsea, we're going to beat the momentum on that, or if we're going to have another crisis of results, a bad run, because of course we need to follow up on this result. But of course, if he is in place, there's something that we've seen during the summer. We touched it, I think, previously, is that the amount of length of time that took to get deals done over the line during a space of 3 months, like from the end of May to, of course, the end of the transfer window in August, Even DCL was a free agent. He arrived when the season had already started, for example. So remember that the January transfer window, January-February transfer window, it's 1 month.
Yeah.
So you need to get deals done very quickly. So of course they will have right now. I have no doubt they are already talking about this change of formation, and they know they are football men after all. Every football man knows that we don't have the depth for this formation on the long term, and we need to bring in more. So absolutely, I think they have already started to identify the players to bring in, and we will need to get on the case too before now.
Yeah,
one of the next before the transfer window opens to get some names,
Yeah,
like we always did on the past. It's a good game. Try to get some players, and maybe they pop up for
best believe
team. Yeah.
One thing I will say, the scouts, the video scouts that analyze the players, obviously for the club to put in the databases, they will be working hard. If it's like, right, established, now we're going to go back 3, rest of the season, the scouts have gone, oh no, because now you have to reevaluate every player in a back three, different roles
Yeah.
now. Oh, this guy was good in a back four, but now you got to just, can he play in a back three? Yeah, the scouts are working overtime. Let me tell you, where I was at last year, I don't know what I can say. I did some video scouting for Barrow last year, and they changed manager halfway through the season. So instantly, he's like, right, he wants different players and different profiles. And you're going, oh, okay, hard work. You're getting more games every week. You're getting more players to watch every week. You've got a different kind of criteria of what the manager wants, what is required in each position, the key performance indicators in each area. Hard work for the scouts, but that's the fun of the job. That's the challenge. That's what we love. But yeah, I think anything else to say, Andre?
No, I think we covered. And just one thing, before we wrap it up, we said it's gonna be a shorter one. In the end, with more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
We
That's short
managed
for
to
us.
more than
That's
1 hour.
short for us.
It's short for us, not 2 hours. But yeah, if we don't have anything else, of course, gonna close this off by saying we have made the first step. Now we need to follow up with Liverpool. So yeah, it's gonna be another big game and another big test. But I think it's good to see that Leeds had a game plan against Chelsea to play to try to nullify their threats of Chelsea, rather than okay, let's try to play our football. Let's try to play football. There's also the adaptability to try to play to nullify not to our strengths, but to nullify the strengths of the opposition. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Final thoughts, Lucky, before I close it.
Yeah, I just wanted to. There was a quote. I can't find it, but so Estavo, the winger, the young Brazilian winger, he was
Esteval,
asked.
yeah.
Esteval, sorry, yeah, like my Yorkshire accent. Said it in Yorkshire. Estavo,
Esteval.
Esteval, yeah, Esteval. Apologies, but he. So I think Maresca at the end of the game asked about him, and he said, for him, this was a welcome to the Premier League, and this was a welcome to Leeds or Ellen Road. Yeah, that's what we need to give young players, a welcome. So that's the team. That's the type of team I want us to be. Yeah. Welcome these young players to the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So absolutely, Leeds, Liverpool. So yeah, now the run continues. We need another Ellen Road like that. So
100%.
Absolutely, like Lucky said, we need to keep the atmosphere growing, because again, even the Italian ones commentating, they always say, one of the most hostile grounds in England, old ground, a beautiful ground. And also, before we close it up, I retweeted a video of the South Stand, portrayed by the portrayed. It's not an artist, not a painter. Pictured video from the East Stand from Beth LUFC. She goes to games. And actually, there's a lot of it's going around a lot today. It's the South Stand going mental. I'm not gonna say the other word, because we want to keep it PG. Like WWE back in the early decades of this millennium. But yeah, again, I saw a comment and I could absolutely agree. The stadium redevelopment, if you put the away fans in the South Stand, you absolutely lose the soul of Ellen Road. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It's so fierce, lads. It's so fierce, that stand, it's absolutely absolutely 12 man, absolutely 12 man. And there's no many clubs that can say which can say right now we have two hostile two vocal heated stands, like back in the days it was the COP, the Revi stand, the gathered. Right now you have two. The most vital one is the South stand right now, after they decided to keep it only Leeds. I remember back in the days, when of Grayson, those days, it was basically the away end, especially in the league, because there was the cheese wedge, I remember. Then you had the away fans, also, especially in cup games. I remember one against Bradford City, and it was full of away fans. Then they decided to move the away fans to the West Stand, and the South Stand. A lot of young of the younger generation, of a new core of Leeds fans moved there, and it built an atmosphere of its own, you know. And now it is the most fierce stand on the ground. And despite that, the cup still sinks, you know. So you have like two, like other clubs, they have just one, because usually the away fans are on the opposite end, you know, of the ground. So you have like the away fans. Leeds has two fierce stands,
right
you
next
know,
to each other.
people sing, you know, and people sing, you know, because the away end is on the west end. So don't move the south stand out, because otherwise I think the Sullivan and Road will be gone, and it will be like,
100%.
you know, Etihad. It would be like the King Power, for example, where you lose like even Southampton. The Dell was a tough place to go now when since they moved to St Mary's. You know, it's you turn the fierce popular soul of the ground into corporate, in sense that with that redevelopment you lose that peculiar part of the ground. So that's just what I wanted to say. So yeah, lads, thanks for watching as always. Thank you for your comments. I know that sometimes we answer them, but sometimes we, because both of us are working during the day, sometimes we don't, but at night too, yeah. But we read every one of them, so it's always good to see the support. It's always good to see the debate that we encourage. So yeah, thanks lads, and as always, marching on together, and viva el football. Long live football.